Water availability. Bryophytes and pteridophytes require water to reproduce. This is why they can only be found in moist areas. Land gradient. Plants that live on slopes have to have stronger root systems to anchor themselves into the soil. Altitude. Plants living at high altitudes have adaptations to help survive cool temperatures and frost damage. Wind. Trees that grow in windier environments require stronger, more extensive root systems to anchor themselves in the soil. Fire. Some plants need fires in order to reproduce. Many fambus plants have evolved so that their seeds are able to withstand fire, and that after the fire, the seeds germinate in the nutrient-rich soil. Sexual reproduction involves two parent organisms in which the fusion of two gametes takes place. The offspring are different from their parents and have greater genetic diversity than of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves one parent, offspring are identical to their parents, and there is no genetic variation. Sexual reproduction would be more effective in changing environmental conditions, as the offspring are different from their parents. This means that the offspring that are better suited to the changing environments will survive and reproduce.
Bryophytes. Bryophytes live in wet, damp, shady areas and are often found growing on trees or are found near other small plants. Bryophytes also live near a stream or other water supply. Bryophytes need water for fertilization, as the male organ needs to release its sperm into water so that the sperm can swim to the female sex organ, the archegonium, in order to find the female egg cell. Fertilization in bryophytes occurs in a wet environment when the male organ, the antheridium, releases a swimming sperm into the water. The sperm then swim down the neck of the female organ, which is known as the archegonium, in order to find the egg cell. In bryophytes, spores are formed, and the spores are dispersed using wind. The spores are released into the air and get blown away. Pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are also found living near water in shady and wet conditions where light intensity and altitude are both low. The plants also live in areas that are protected from the wind. Pteridophytes such as ferns need water for reproduction. This is because the spores can only germinate and grow in moist places. Ferns, which are pteridophytes, have small brown patches on the underside of their fully developed leaves. These sori contain special structures called sporangia, and these sporangia burst open to release spores. These spores then grow into a small flat structure called the prothallus. This prothallus contains both the male and female organs. The sperm then swim from the antheridium to the archegonium and fertilize the egg cell. In pteridophytes, spores are produced by the sporangia, which release them when they are mature. Spores are dispersed using water, as the spores are transported in water and need to remain in a moist environment. Gymnosperms. Gymnosperms do not need to be near water, therefore they live in dry areas where there is a high light intensity. They also have to grow in harsh wind conditions and also grow in dry soil. Gymnosperms don't need water for fertilization, as they use wind to disperse their pollen to reach the female cone. Gymnosperms have special reproductive organs called cones, which contain the gametes. The male gamete is held inside a small spore called a pollen grain, and the pollen grains are released into the wind by the male cone. The pollen grains carried by the wind reach the pollen tube inside the female cone, which carries the male gametes to the female gametes. In gymnosperms, seeds are formed. These seeds are dispersed by various animals that include rodents and insects. Angiosperms. Angiosperms particularly live in areas of high temperature and light intensity, and live both on sloped gradients on mountains and also on flat land. Angiosperms don't need water, as they use various methods to disperse their seeds, such as making their flowers attractive so that flying insects, calling insects, or even birds pollinate them. Many angiosperms come to rely on animals along with wind to carry the male gametes to the ovary. Each flower is made to attract a particular animal, as the use of animals to carry the male gametes is more reliable and less wasteful than wind. When the pollen grain with the male gamete lands on the stigma of the flower, a pollen tube grows down the style towards the ovary and fertilization takes place. In angiosperms, the ovule develops to a seed. Angiosperms disperse their seeds by animals eating their fruits, which means the animals excrete their seeds in other areas, or by releasing the seeds into the wind and the wind dispersing their seeds.
Flowers consist of male and female reproductive parts. The male reproductive part forms the stamen, which consists of the anther and the filament. The female part of the flower consists of the stigma, style, and ovary. The male gamete cells are found in the pollen grains on the anther, and the female gamete cells are found in the eggs and the ovaries. When a pollen grain lands on the stigma, the male gamete travels down the style, where it fuses with the female gamete in the ovary. Different species of fambus are pollinated by different animals depending on their structure, scent, and color. Examples of pollinators include sunbirds, which have evolved longer beaks to probe into flowers, such as the red-eyed poker, to extract the nectar within them. Another example is bees, which collect pollen from flowers such as aloes to make honey. They collect the honey in pollen sacs on their legs.